Thanks for staying with us. Crime and violence continues to be a massive concern across South Africa. Women and children claiming, of course, that they feel unsafe in their own home. The number of rape incidents have remained within the 9,000 mark in the first 3 months of each year since 2017. And news just yesterday that Lusikisiki in the Eastern Cape has had the most incidents of rape. What can be done to curb the scourge of gender-based violence? It seems we've been asking this continuously for decades. To unpack this, we're joined from the Eastern Cape by Dr. Leslie Ann Foster, who has just been named as part of the GBV Response Fund, which will start its work from later on this month. Dr. Foster, thank you so much for joining us all the way from Port St. Francis. Congratulations on your appointment to this very important response fund. Give us an idea of what this fund aims to do, because I do believe it was back in 1998 that you first wrote a report for the UN in which you called for the start of such a fund. It's many years later, but you must be quite happy that this is finally, something like this has finally come to fruition.
Good morning, and good morning to all the viewers. Yes, absolutely. I think this is such an important moment in our history in the struggle to end gender-based violence in our country. And we are extremely excited because it's the first time that we really have a comprehensive political response to gender-based violence. I think the work over the last few decades by women across this country has been to raise awareness around the scourge, the extent of it, the many manifestations of it which continue to grow. And now we have both a declaration on gender-based violence, the first for the country. We also have a national strategic plan. And the gender-based response fund is actually linked to the national strategic plan on gender-based violence, which was adopted by the president in May, the end of April last year. It started in May. So what's important about this response is it is, first of all, a whole of society response. So we've been working as a women's sector and some of the government departments. Now all state departments are required to respond. The private sector come to the party with civil society organizations that I represent on the board. This is a shift in the way that we have responded before, and that makes it very important. In addition, the National Strategic Plan did extensive work to identify the drivers of gender-based violence in our society, and it has developed 6 pillars to which this gender-based fund is going to respond. That's very different. To be able to have the money to put in place the mechanisms to tackle all of the drivers is really a big leap forward, and it's a very positive opportunity for us to really address this comprehensively and holistically moving forward.
Now, I believe they were aiming to raise something like 100 billion rand. Of course, the big question will be, will that money trickle down to local level, and especially to our marginalized communities where we're seeing these horrific rape statistics and gender-based violence statistics still being a massive problem, especially for our women and children?
I believe that it will. I believe that we now have a very clear analysis of where the money has to go. We're looking at behavior change, but we're looking at all different things, accountability and leadership from the national right down to the local level. And already this is happening because at provincial level, we have provincial strategic plans on gender-based violence that have been or are in the process of being developed. Then we're going to have district level and local level plans that are going to be developed. Now, this is important because it means that we will be able to work at all levels to address the issue. And there will be money put to each of the pillars at each of those levels. I think it's still going to be the responsibility of civil society to engage in monitoring and evaluation continuously of the fund. It's not, we haven't arrived. This is the beginning of a new process that we have to follow very carefully to ensure that the money does actually trickle down. And I believe that we have the commitment on this board we have the experience on the board to be able to ensure that that actually happens. What was exciting in the first board meeting yesterday was to find that many who have come on board are providing pro bono services. So no one on the board, nobody aligned with the board is going to be paid as such, because we are making that commitment to ensuring that the money actually goes to the people who need it on the ground. And we are developing mechanisms to ensure that the people in the remotest rural areas, are provided access. So we don't want barriers of language and distance and, economic status to prevent people from accessing this. It'll be one of the key issues that we look at to ensure that, the money actually reaches those who can make the difference.
Now, Dr. Foster, before I let you go, speaking of one of those very important areas in a rural area in the Eastern Cape, which I'm sure you know very, very well, the area of Lusikisiki was very much front and center yesterday after the police minister's briefing of the quarterly crime statistics, where it is now recorded the highest incident of rape overtaking the Inanda police station. An area like Lusikisiki, now, as we wrap up this interview, what is the issue there that an area like that can come to the fore on a national level as having the highest rate of rape in the country?
Well, the Eastern Cape is known to be the poorest province. It's known to suffer the most inequality, the most levels of unemployment. Violence against women is definitely a societal problem, but it's also an economic problem. It's a problem of inequality. And these areas in the Eastern Cape that are very remote, that haven't got access, that suffer extreme deprivation, will have higher levels of gender-based violence because of the inequality. So again, this plan is aimed at addressing the inequality in our society. And inequality means that even the services that are provided are not there. You don't have enough NGOs dealing with this issue to raise awareness. You don't have support services, in abundance. So there's a myriad of problems that go into that. Of course, there's also the issue around patriarchy and masculinities, and issues like tradition, religion, culture play a big role in these areas in lowering the status of women, in taking away their dignity and their respect. And so we have to work on those key drivers, the economic drivers, the social drivers, to actually turn the tide in these areas that are seeing this. And I believe that while we are hearing that Lusikisiki has very high levels of it, there may be higher levels of reporting. There are other areas where you have extremely high levels of violence, which go unreported. So we still have that problem in our country of having to establish exactly the extent and the breadth of violence against women across all areas.
Okay, we're going to leave it there. Indeed, a lot of work left to be done, and we can only wish you everything of the best. Dr. Lesley-Ann Foster joining us there from the Eastern Cape. She is on the board of the Gender-Based Violence Response Fund.